Hello, I'm Sean McAngus, and this is episode 10, season 2 of the Highland League podcast. In this podcast, I will be speaking to former Huntly and Rothes defender Connor Bryan. Connor Bryan talks about his career in the Highland League before playing in the juniors and what it's like playing in Abu Dhabi. Hope you enjoy this interview. Your first experience of Highland League football?
So my first experience of Highland League football was really, I moved up to Aberdeen in 2014, and that was to go to university. So I've been playing Lowland League stuff under 20s when I was down in Edinburgh, and I moved up, and I really didn't know much about the Highland League. I just knew I moved up and I wanted to play competitive football. So I reached out to a couple of boys clubs at the time. I was under 19s, Huntly FC being one of them. So I went along and I was playing under 19s, and Ian Cooper was the manager, and he also took the under 20s alongside Greg Carroll, the first team manager at the time. So what happened was I quickly got involved with there, and it was a really professional setup, the under 20s. It was treated just like the first team. You'd have all your physios, you'd have all your kit ready. So I guess you'd say that would be my first involvement really with the Highland League, getting involved there. And we had a really good team at the under 20s. We played a good few games. We would have played all the Aberdeenshire teams anyway. And we did really well. So it was from that, obviously Greg Carroll was along, he was the manager at the time. So he would have overseen all the games with Ian Cooper, and he would have been in the change rooms and in about the team, telling us what we needed to do. He would definitely let us know if we were playing badly, especially at half time. There was a good few times we were down at half time, and he'd come in and give us a bit of a going through. So that was really my first involvement, and through that I was signed on with the Huntly first team, and the very first game I played in the Highland League was the last game of the season in 2014-15 season up at Bucky Thistle. We lost 1-0. We lost 2-0 in that game. But yeah, that was my first game, and I loved it. I was absolutely hooked from there. I was very happy that they offered me a 2-year contract at that time, because with all the involvement in the under 20s and actually getting on and playing for the first team, I couldn't really believe that my football had taken off like that, considering I didn't even know what I was going to be doing once I moved up to Aberdeen. So that was really fantastic, and I'm always very thankful for Huntly for that opportunity, really. So yeah, from that point on, I played that game for Huntly. Obviously went away, did pre-season, and I had an opportunity to go out on loan. We had a few offers. Again, Ian Cooper, who had been with me at the under 20s, he was now manager in Newmarket, so I had an opportunity to go there. And then the opportunity came through that I had the chance to stay in the Highland League and play with Rothes, who obviously at the time were struggling a little bit. So for me, that was too good an offer to really pass up. I knew a couple of the teams in the juniors were of a really good quality, but to be able to stay and play in the Highland League was really too good an offer for me to not take, really. Yeah. So from that point on, signed with Rothes on loan. We had a great start, quite surprisingly if you look at the rest of the season, but we had a great start away to Bucky again. We won 1-0 in pre-season. And so when I saw that, and Paul Lamberton was the manager, he was really helpful with me. I had a lot of young players. I was players on loan from Devon Vale, from Turf at the time as well. So it was a young squad where I could really get in, and obviously there wasn't a lot of pressure on us. We knew the struggle that the club were going through at the time with money. They weren't trying to hide that from me or anything. But when you looked at the players that they had on loan and the players that were there at the time, it was a very young team. And the older guys that were there, you couldn't really not want to play alongside them. They're very friendly. They'd always talk you through the game, and I had a bit of experience playing, but also I'd only been in the Highland League for one game and then that pre-season match, so I had a lot to learn. And despite the results, you go down that season with Rothes, and obviously the 15-16 season where it was loss after loss after loss. We got a draw maybe halfway through, but I enjoyed every minute of it. It was a huge learning curve for me. So it was a fantastic season for me anyway. Before I got recalled to Huntly, I enjoyed every minute of playing for Rothes. And do you know what? It's actually fantastic to see. I was looking at the league table the other day. It's fantastic to see how well they're doing now. I can't believe the turnaround that the club's had. It was obviously on the up. As I was leaving, they brought in Fraser Bremner, and the board had really rallied. And I knew it was going to be a club improving, but I didn't expect to see the improvement that they had, and it's fantastic where they finished.
How delighted were you to score for Office when they won their won a Highland League match for the first time in 17 months?
That game was brilliant. Obviously, I was delighted to score, but we scored our second goal. I scored my goal in the first half. We were 2-0 up, and you know, it was more at the time it wasn't really delight. Obviously, I was happy I scored, but at the time I was like, right, we're 2-0 up. We need to win this game. We've not won since in the cup early doors against Fort William. I believe that was our only win of the season before that. So it was really more the pressure. I was like, we need to keep this lead. And then if I remember correctly, the end of that game was crazy. I think Strathspey also scored to finish 2-1, and they had a chance late on, and I believe the referee, I can't remember if the striker actually put the ball in the net or not. The referee stopped the goal. He called it off, and that was literally the last kick of the ball. It was absolute scenes, but you can believe we really enjoyed that one in the dressing room afterwards, and it was such a relief to get that, because I didn't even know at that point if I was going to be going back to Huntly. There had been talks of being recalled, but we're all just delighted, and obviously it feels good that I can look back on that and be the goal scorer that won the match in that game, because it was essential to our season, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. Was it a sense of frustration getting recalled back after being part of that good win, or not really?
No, it wasn't frustration. Obviously, I'd spoken at that time. The manager changed at Huntly as well, so I was still training there once a week as well as with Rothes twice. And Doug Baxter come in, and obviously being out on loan when the new manager comes in, it's actually maybe not the best to be there, because he doesn't really get a chance to see you. He gets to maybe see you once a week in training. But yeah, so I'd spoken to him, and we kind of assessed our options, and I was happy to say, like, he was maybe thinking, bring me back, but put me on loan somewhere closer to home so he could maybe come and see. And it was actually me that said to him, like, why don't you bring me back? And I wasn't expecting to play as many games as I did, but it was me that brought it up and said, why don't you bring me back, and I'll chip away where I can, but that means I'll be training with you guys twice a week, and then I'll be with the squad on the match day. And he was like, yeah, we'll do that. And then thankfully for me, there was actually a space. I didn't play in a couple of matches when I came back, but there ended up being a space for me in the team. Can't remember if that was through injuries or not, but I played a good portion of the last few games. Again, I did very well in the Huntly defence, so it was exciting for me, because I knew that I had a 2-year contract with Huntly. I knew I'd be back there next season, so it was a chance for me to prove myself to the new manager, and I really wanted to do that. So no, it wasn't frustration. Obviously, I enjoyed being with Rothes, and it was good coming off a high, but perhaps it was the best way to leave, really. Winning that game, and then that kind of is my legacy with Rothes, I guess.
So after all that, you went to the juniors with Stonehaven. Was there ever a chance to stay with the Highland League?
So yeah, obviously I've been told by Huntly that I was going to be up for transfer, and we had a few offers, but I hadn't heard anything from any other Highland League teams at this point. So Stonehaven was obviously, they had a great season. They were going off the back of finishing second, and they had a great season there. So I went along and played a couple of games with them for pre-season. It was one against Lunkerty, and I really enjoyed the games that we were playing there. We actually played some nice football, and I felt like it was a good fit. I played a couple of other games for some other teams, but Stonehaven was my choice. So I went in there, and unfortunately it didn't really work out with Stonehaven, but I don't look back on it, and I don't regret it. I maybe perhaps made a decision about my future a wee bit too quickly, but I'd never been in the position of looking for a club and being under contract for another one. But yeah, like it was another learning curve. I went there, and we actually were very successful. believe that they still finished second that season. Obviously, I moved on to Bridget Thistle, they now called it. It was obviously Newborough Thistle at the time.
Yeah.
But Stonehaven team were very successful in what they did. But when it was kind of came to the football being played, obviously I'm not going to say that the Highland League plays the prettiest football in the world. It's not like Barcelona or anything, but you're always trying to play, and you're always trying to like express yourself in the park. It's not just a case of play the ball long. You're always given a chance to express yourself, and you want to play nice football, and obviously you want to win. But when it was in with Stonehaven, I remember one of the very first sessions after I signed, which gave me a bit of a shock. We played in a game, and we had won, but it was the first game of the season. It was 2-0 against Ellen in the cup, and I'd been brought off, and I remember going into training the next kind of training session available, and the manager at the time saying, "Oh, I know you want to play really nice football, but here the defenders just defend, and we want to get the ball as long as possible." And I couldn't believe really what I was hearing. So from that point on, I was maybe thinking maybe this isn't the best place for me, but I'd already signed my contract at that point. So yeah, it's just at the end of the day, it wasn't the fit I hoped it would be. But that team was very successful, and then yeah, by this point, my time in the North East was not as enjoyable as it was in the Highland League. But again, as I said, it's not anything that I look back on and regret. I really enjoyed my time in both junior teams. But at the time, I was getting more. I was at university. I was studying, and things were getting more and more serious. By this point, I was in my third year and going into my fourth. And at that point, I'm doing a lot of work. My time in university is actually increasing. I was working, obviously, outside of that. I was working with Aberdeen Football Club, doing coaching, and there was times that I was working 7 days a week with it. So I was trying to work that around my football while the pressures of uni were getting kind of more and more serious. So at that point, the playing kind of took a wee bit of a backseat. I had to tell myself, as much as I'm enjoying football, I'm not up in Aberdeen to do that. I was up in Aberdeen to complete my studies and to work. So yeah, unfortunately, my time was cut a wee bit short with the football at North East. But yeah, it was the juniors was another good learning experience. I was still a young guy, still 20, 21. So I still had a lot to learn in terms of football that way. So I don't regret any of that.
So moving on to you're now out in Abu Dhabi. So how did that come about?
In terms of working, I finished up studying at university, and I had the chance to go out here and teach. So I'm a PE teacher out here. And in terms of the playing, when I moved out, it was I've been here a year and a half, going 2 years. So the first year it was a case of settling in, and then the second year I realised obviously I'd like to be playing football. I wanted to be playing football as soon as I moved over, but unfortunately I had other things to prioritise. So looking into playing football over here, it's actually very difficult to find a team. It's the way the league's structured. It's not the same as Scotland or England or even Ireland. There's a couple of leagues. Last year there was the Premier League, the First Division, and then nothing until you came to just amateurs with lads playing 11-a-side on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
So I play a couple of games here and there, and then this season they introduced the second division. So this is the league that I'm playing in just now is the first. This is the first league that's ever been in fruition. So I heard about the team that I'm playing with now, it's Regional Sports FC. They have a coaching academy all the way from under 6 up to under 18s, and then the first team, who now play in the second division. So it was myself and my friend who coaches for one of the academies, which I do now as well. And he said, like, do you want to go along to training with me? I'm going to go along. And for me, it was just like, I've been playing football here and there, but it was a case like, well, I'll go along, I'll train. I'd seen their kind of stuff on social media, and they looked like a very professional club. And I was like, well, not sure. It's been a long time since I played any professional football, but I'll go along, see if I can get fit again and see if I enjoy it. And the case was that it wasn't just training. They were actually holding trials. We needed a few more players. They'd lost a few. They weren't doing so well in the league. It was kind of almost like not as bad, but it was almost like another Rothes where it was halfway through the season and they picked up a few wins here and there, but they weren't doing as well as they wanted. So they brought in a new manager. He'd been there 2 weeks before I even got involved, and they were looking for new players. So I went along, and I trained. I was maybe a wee bit more fit than I realised I was, but I went along and trained, and I kind of fitted in really well with the new manager. He's a Spanish guy, great manager, and very like if you look at it, I'd say he compares himself with Pep Guardiola. He's very much about playing football out from the back and really playing with a philosophy of passing first. And if you ever pick it along, doesn't matter if you're hemmed in your own 6-yard box, he'd be going mad at the side for playing along the ball. So I really clicked with that. I really enjoyed the training. The training is very intense, and we're actually training. Well, not now obviously because of the virus, but we were training 5 days a week, all the weekdays, and then we're playing on Saturday. So really, we're having one day off a week, and it was fantastic to go from really no football to being played in like almost a full-time scenario. It's been incredible. So it's kind of fallen into it, kind of like I did in Aberdeen as well. I went along somewhere just thinking I want to get back into football again, and then next thing you know, I'm back playing professional football. So it's been amazing. I'm absolutely gutted that we've got one game left in the season, so it's not really been cut short, but it feels almost like it's been cut short because we came off the back of an amazing win just in my last game a couple of weeks ago, and we beat a team from Dubai 5-1, and it was 5-0, we didn't lose a goal. Fantastic game. Like, we played really well, and it was just again another one where the momentum was building, and like many teams, we've been cut short, so it's been fantastic.
Yeah, so what is the standard of football is like out there?
It's tough to say. I think about this quite often. Obviously, I'm phoning home to family and friends, telling them about it, and obviously they ask the same question: how does it differ to what I've experienced before? I think the level would be very similar to something like the Highland League or the Lowland League. Obviously, it's actually promotion and relegation from the first division, so it is a wee bit different. There's no playoffs or anything, but I'd say you take any of the teams from the top end of the Highland League or the Lowland League, and they'd probably be up there in this league, if not winning it. So I'd say the team that I'm playing against, we would be very much like the standard of maybe your Keiths or your Huntleys in the Highland League. So it's a great standard to be involved in. I'd say the way that we, obviously with the training every day of the week, I'd say we'd probably be a bit fitter, especially training the heat. And the way that a lot of the teams over here are wanting to play football, it's because they've got like foreign managers. I would say there's a bit more of a philosophy and a way of playing it. It's more, if you have to watch one of the matches here, it's kind of like watching something in the Premier League. Obviously not the quality of the players, but the way that teams build up from the back and the tactics involved, I'd say it's something a wee bit more that I've had to learn about. You can't just go in expecting to win matches. You need to play your way, and it's maybe a wee bit more tactically different from what I've experienced in the Highland League. For me, anyway, maybe not for other players, but I'd say the overall quality of the players involved would be very similar.
So how did you adjust to playing in the heat compared to Scotland, where some of the winters it's freezing?
It's really different. I'll tell you that honestly. I went along, as I said, to these training sessions, and I was in the gym most days. I'd be doing runs. I thought I was in pretty good condition to go in and play again. And it's just the heat is a factor. You go in and it's trying to do your runs, and you think you're breathing heavily after a couple of runs, and you're thinking, how is this? I've been playing football, I've been training, and it takes it out of you, and it's something you do have to get used to. But I'd like to think that I have. Obviously, I've been here 2 years, so I have got used to it. But at the same time, even if they were to bring back the game that we've got left in the season now, it's getting to the point where in the day it's getting to 42, 43, 44 degrees. And then even at night, I was sitting out on the balcony last night with dinner, and it was almost too hot to do that. Now it's getting to that time of year where everything's really inside with the aircon. It's getting kind of humid. So again, obviously being training every day, I'm feeling really fit. But I'm sure many of the local lads who are used to it, they'd be I'd go in, play in the game in this heat, and be struggling again. So it is really something you have to work on, and you have to kind of just get through it and make sure you take on plenty of water as well, obviously, because when you're coming up at the end, you're going to be needing it.
So, looking back at the teams you've played for, Sam, who's been the best player you've played with?
It's very difficult. I've played with a lot of great players. Over here, I'm currently centre-back partners with Danny Seaborn, who has Premier League appearances.
Yeah.
So in terms of learning from someone, even though I'm now 23 and I'm playing with a lot younger guys, so I'm actually one of the more senior players in the team, I still learn every training session that I train with them. I still learn a lot about just the way to defend. He's just a great defender. Obviously, he played Partick Thistle and Hamilton, so even just in sessions, he probably won't realise, but I'll be watching him and I'll be picking up tips from him. So say as a defender, I'd learn a lot about him, but in terms of being an all-round footballer, those players I played with at Huntly, and even a couple of the lads at Rothes, obviously we had a lot of losses, but they were just footballers who'd been around the Highland League and they'd done it, and they were brilliant to be around. Donald Horst was one that I'd pick up on straight away. Centre mid for Rothes, obviously did play for Huntly in his time as well. And a great footballer that I really learned a lot from, Alex Doyers for Huntly, a great athlete, a great footballer. I'm such a great advocate for Huntly football as well. He's obviously been there a lot of years. He's one of the best players that I've been around just for, especially in training. You want every training session to be as intense as possible to kind of mirror a match day, and you can guarantee that every training session you'll be in there giving 100%. And it's really players like these that you need in the club. From what I've experienced, you need players who want to be there and players who are going to battle for everything. It's going to improve everyone, and I'd certainly say that these are the kind of players that I've played alongside that are just a fantastic influence on not just me, not just young guys, but everyone at the club. The club wouldn't be the same without them.
Yeah. So what have you made of the amount of former SBL players going into the Highland League, and it seems to be each year the level's getting better and better? What do you make of that?
I think it's fantastic for the league. I still keep up with the Highland League. I look at the results, and I think it can only be a good thing, especially for. I always think of myself coming through being a young guy in the Highland League, and anyone else that's kind of making that journey just now. It's such a big thing to have a name that you know in the dressing room. And any of these guys coming from the SBL or anywhere else down into the Highland League, it's only going to be better for the league. It's going to make the quality of all the teams come up because we'll have to compete, and it's going to make players better as well. The young players looking in, it means more people more young guys looking at what they want to do with football. Do they want to continue? Do they want to give it up? There's going to be more guys wanting to continue the football and become a player so they can go in and play with the lads who are either on loan from a pro academy or an older guy coming in and joining the team as a player coach or anything like that. I think any one of our standards, you want to kind of test yourself against that and see how you compete.
Education out there, what sort of things do they focus on? Certain sports or not really?
When I joined out here, it was the first year in Abu Dhabi where PE was an examinable subject, or you get a grade from it. So it's really a developing curriculum out here. It's not like it is at home. I work in a difficult school, so in terms of kind of students buying into the curriculum and kind of understanding that we need to try different things, it's still a work in progress. Let's put it that way. Football is everything over here. The kids are mad about it. So my kind of problem as a PE teacher is I go in and I want to teach, for example, handball or cricket or something like that, and I'm bringing out the equipment, and the lads are standing there going, "No, we want to play football." They don't quite understand that I need to, as part of a curriculum now, I need to be teaching these sports. Whereas before, I believe that if there might have even not been a PE teacher in my school, they have quite good facilities. I've got a great big hall, and we've got good equipment now. But I think before, I came in, there's a good chance at my school that it would have just been whatever teacher they had last, or whatever teacher was available for cover would take them over, kind of just throw a ball, and then they weren't really a PE teacher, so they didn't have to do anything. So it's kind of trying to get them to buy in and move away from football, and try other sports. And it has been a challenge, but I didn't come over here for an easy life, despite maybe on the weekends I do, but yeah, in work it's still a challenge, but I suppose it keeps you going, isn't it? If you went into work every day and it was easy, you get no satisfaction from it. So yeah, we're trying our hardest, myself and a colleague. We work hard on the weekdays, we do. But when you see them, we've got a couple of teams, like we've got a basketball team and a handball team. And if it hadn't been for the coronavirus, my handball team would have been up in Dubai competing for the best team in the UAE. It gives you a great feeling when you see that happening, and lads kind of buying into what you do. Again, the buy-in rate just now is low, but we hope to improve that as long as we're here. We hope to make things better, and that's what we're employed to do.
Thanks for listening to this episode. You can subscribe to the podcast on Podbeam or iTunes. You can follow us on Instagram or Twitter and like us on Facebook. Hope you can join me next time for another interesting interview.